Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping into a book that will completely flip how you look at the world. Freakonomics. We're going to uncover the hidden side of, well, just about everything.
All right, let's just dive right in with a question that sounds kind of nuts. What do school teachers and sumo wrestlers have in common? I know, it sounds like the beginning of a bad joke, right? But stick with me, because the answer reveals a completely new way of seeing things.
And the answer to that riddle, it all comes down to this one powerful idea. The book argues that if morality is our blueprint for how we wish the world was, economics is the gritty, messy reality of how it actually works. It's not about stocks and bonds, it's about using data to see what's really going on beneath the surface.
So let's break down this new lens on the world. The authors, Levitt and Dubner, built this whole worldview on a few core ideas that just love to poke holes in our assumptions.
And the first idea, the big one, is that incentives are the cornerstone of modern life. They are the invisible puppet strings pulling our levers in ways we often don't even realize.
So, let's get back to our riddle. School teachers and sumo wrestlers. Here's the connection. Both of them were trapped in these incredibly high-pressure systems. You had teachers in Chicago where their job, their school's funding, everything hung on the results of standardized tests. Then you've got these sumo wrestlers, where a single victory could mean a life of fame and fortune, while one loss could mean demotion and basically servitude. Talk about pressure.
And here's the thing about incentives. When they're strong enough, when the stakes are that incredibly high, people from all walks of life, even the most honorable, can be tempted to cheat. It's not necessarily about being a bad person, it's an economic act, getting more for less.
And the data just screams this from the rooftops. So get this, on the last day of a tournament, you've got a wrestler who is 7-7. They desperately need that 8th win. Now, you'd think their odds are about 50-50 against someone who's already secured a winning record, right? But the numbers show they actually win almost 80% of the time. There's just no way that's pure chance. The implication is pretty clear. Some kind of deal is going down. A match is being thrown.
Okay, this leads us right into the next big concept, the unbelievable power of information, especially when one side has all of it and the other has none.
Which, of course, brings us to another question that sounds completely absurd. I mean, what could possibly connect the KKK and your friendly neighborhood real estate agent? Again, it's not a punchline. It's a profound insight. The link is something called information asymmetry. It sounds complicated, but it's simple. It's when the expert you're dealing with knows a whole lot more than you do. And they can, and often do, use that knowledge gap to their advantage. Think about the Klan. Their real power wasn't just in their actions, but in what people didn't know. The secret handshakes, the weird titles, the hidden identities, it all created this mystique and terror. Their informational advantage was their most potent weapon.
Now think about your real estate agent. They have a huge informational advantage. They know the market inside and out, they know what a buyer will really pay, but here's the kicker. Their incentive isn't to get you the absolute top dollar. An extra 10 grand for you might only mean an extra $150 for them. Is that worth weeks of extra work? For them? Probably not.
And the data proves this, plain and simple. When real estate agents sell their own houses, suddenly they're a lot more patient. They leave their homes on the market about 10 days longer on average. The result? They get over 3% more in the final sale price. They use their insider knowledge for themselves. That's information asymmetry in action.
Okay, so this brings us to the third pillar of Freakonomics, the idea that the conventional wisdom, what everyone knows to be true, is very often wrong, and that data can point us to some really surprising and sometimes uncomfortable truths.
Take the massive crime drop in the 1990s. For decades, crime had been going up, and then suddenly, it just fell off a cliff. It took all the experts by surprise, and everyone scrambled to figure out why. And of course, everyone pointed to the usual suspects. You know, the booming economy, smarter policing tactics, new gun laws. It all made perfect sense, right? It became the accepted story. But when Levitt looked at the data, those things just didn't add up. They had an effect, sure, but not nearly enough to explain such a dramatic drop. The data, instead, pointed to something far more controversial. a cause that was much more distant, something that had been set in motion almost 20 years before the crime drop even started.
The book's argument, and it's a controversial one, goes back to 1973, the year Roe v. Wade legalized abortion. Now follow the logic here, which is based on decades of research. Unwanted children born into poverty and unstable homes are statistically at a much higher risk for becoming criminals later in life. The theory is that legalized abortion led to fewer of these at-risk children being born. So when that generation would have been reaching their peak crime-prone years in the early 90s, the crime rate plummeted. Why? Simply put, many of the potential criminals just weren't there.
So, what's the point of all this? The real lesson of Freakonomics is that the things that truly change our world are often hidden in plain sight. They're the factors we never even think to look for. Just to hammer this home, think about the stories of two boys. One, Ted Kaczynski, had everything going for him: a loving family, a great education, every advantage. The other, Roland Fryer, was dealt the worst possible hand: abandoned, raised in an abusive home, a gangster as a teen. And yet, against all odds, both of them ended up at Harvard. But one became the infamous Unabomber. The other became an award-winning economist studying inequality. It's just a powerful, powerful reminder that the things we think should determine our fate often don't. So in the end, the point of Freakonomics isn't to make us all cynical. It's to make us curious. It's a challenge to all of us to question our assumptions, to look beyond the easy answers, and to follow the data, even when it leads to uncomfortable places. Because only then can we start to really see the world not for how we wish it was, but for how it actually is.